Hello, thank you for purchasing or considering purchasing the Smarter Reefs Roller Mat Algae Scrubber Combination Filter along with the Fleece Beast All-in-One Reef Filtration System. In this video we will discuss the assembly instructions. Welcome and come along with us. After getting everything unpacked, go ahead and peel off any of the paper that we provided during shipping. For the video we've left the paper on, but you can go ahead and remove it. Let's get started by pulling out the roller mat and connecting the top connector that will connect the algae scrubber. You can go ahead and put the bottom two screws in and leave the top holes empty. There's going to be a similar connector on the back. Go ahead and again put the bottom two screws in and then leave the top empty for the algae scrubber connection. Now here we demonstrate the plumbing situation. We provide you a flex tubing that you can connect to your 1-inch aquarium drain along with an elbow. This is Schedule 80 pipe. The basic kit is going to come with Schedule 40. If you purchase the optional Durso overflow style, it should be connected as shown, and also if you purchase the Union and Spears gate valve, you can connect it as shown as well. We have not glued the pipes because you may need to cut it during assembly in your own setup. So you will need to cut them as needed and glue everything together. Now the fittings that are below the water line do not need to be glued. For example, the overflow does not need to be glued and the lower elbow does not need to be glued, but the upper connections including the union valve and gate valve should be glued so that you don't have any leaking outside the sump area. Now here's the inside. The bottom of it is a PVC coupler that has a large hole drilled into it to disperse the water flow, and the top is an elbow. If you want to overflow the roller mat for low nutrients, rotate the elbow downwards. If you want to not have any water overflowing, then go ahead and rotate the elbow upwards. Note the clear acrylic rod that is placed in between the holes and secured with a rubber O-ring. This is to guide the fleece during normal operation. It's very easy to do. You slide the acrylic rod inside the hole and secure it with the O-ring as shown. It's easiest to slide it in from the front and secure it in the back. Go ahead and support the front while you're pushing on it with the other hand to get the O-ring secured. And look something like this. Now if your filter has screw holes provided, you do want to put a spacer in there and then put the 4 screws in. Now this is for optional accessories including a media basket that can be purchased separately. The reason you put the screws in here is to prevent water from splashing outside the holes. This completes the roller mat assembly. You can go ahead and place it into your sump and connect your fittings. Okay, with the roller mat in place, it's time to look at the algae scrubber assembly. There's one main algae scrubber assembly. It may come with the Uniseal pre-installed. If it's not, you can go ahead and slide the Uniseal in the hole and also the 90-degree elbow barb fitting. We have provided a small amount of silicone lubrication to make inserting the Uniseal and barb fitting much easier. It does require a slight amount of force, but not too much. You can give it a small twist and angle it downward slightly so that it's ready for the silicone tubing placement. The silicone tubing should slide on pretty easily. Now you can purchase optionally a DC controllable pump that we will show you later in the video. You can now attach the float switch holder. The float switch is very easily connected. You can just unloosen the nut and then hand tighten it onto the bracket. We do recommend rotating the bracket 90 degrees so that installation is slightly easier. Now go ahead and slide the cord through the hole and you can connect it to the motor. Now use the last 2 holes on the motor to screw onto the algae scrubber assembly. There's 1 top screw and 1 bottom screw. After you get the top screw in place, you do want to put the LED light in because the bottom screw is going to hold the LED light in place. Go ahead and get the LED here. Now the LED should go in with the white bracket on the top. It slides in very easily into the slot. Push the LED towards the clear panel and then adjust the motor bracket and go ahead and tighten with your thumb. Now you can go ahead and place the cord inside the cord management holes. And that completes the algae scrubber assembly. Now the algae scrubber assembly should be done after your plumbing is connected, which is not shown here. But you can go ahead and slide the algae scrubber right on top and line up the holes. Also, the top and bottom pieces will line up. And then don't forget to connect the float switch. It's easier to connect the float switch obviously before you connect it onto the aquarium. And it is a tight fit, so you do want to push very hard. And you'll hear a snap or a click. And again, go ahead and line up the holes with the connector. And then do the first 2 screws on the front first, and then on the back there's 2 more screws. The back may be a little tricky because it's kind of blind, but the hole should already be aligned if you do the front panel first. And so all you need to do is find the hole in the back and turn it clockwise to tighten the screws. You can also rotate the filter slightly if you need to get the screws in place or to be able to see. This is probably the trickiest part of the assembly, is getting those back 2 screws on, but it's not too bad. At this point, you can line up the filter with the protein skimmer. If you have it, you can attach the spool holder brackets. There's one on the rear and one on the front, and there's 2 screws for each part. It's very easy to line up the holes and tighten the thumb screws. You only have to do this once. There are a lot of screws in the assembly process, but most of them, the vast majority, are only put in the one time. Now take your fleece and place it onto the spool holder. There are 2 spacers, one for the right side and one for the left side, or one for the bottom, one for the top. Go ahead and sit the fleece onto the brackets and make sure that the spacers are providing the appropriate spacing. You can go ahead and take some of the fleece and feed it through. You will need to go under that acrylic rod that you installed onto the roller mat. You can do this with your right hand. Just stick it in from the right hand side and guide it under the acrylic rod. It's performed fairly easily. Reach onto the left hand side, grab it and pull it through. Go ahead and pull an extra couple feet of fleece because you will need it for the initial setup. This is the roller mat bracket. It does have the acrylic rod with the PVC that you must slide in there and secure with the O-ring like you did on previous steps for the other parts. Go ahead and slide it in between the filter fleece and the algae scrubber, being careful not to let all the fleece fall into the protein skimmer. And then the bracket will slide down and lock into place with the provided notch. Go ahead and pull some extra fleece through to feed the fleece through the skimmer bracket. There is a special skimmer bracket for the all-in-one filter as shown here. Similar to the other parts, there's a PVC pipe and acrylic rod that's inserted through to guide the fleece and is secured with the O-ring. There are 3 rollers on this assembly. Make sure that the top tall piece is facing you because it's going to hold the spindle. We're just showing you here how to align the acrylic rod and PVC pipes. It's very easy. So you want to feed the fleece around the top and then down through the crack. Grab the fleece, go over the top roller, down, and then around the lower rollers, bring the fleece back up. It should all slide very easily and smoothly. If you feel anything caught, you need to examine to see why it's not rolling smoothly, but it should roll very easily. Make sure the lid is perfectly straight and aligns to the protein skimmer. It should sit nice and flush and should not be crooked in any way. It's very important to keep everything aligned here. Go ahead and take one thumb screw and attach the rear bracket to the motor. Pull some extra fleece through. Go ahead and prepare it for attaching to the spindle by folding it in half once, folding it in half again, and then taking it and pinching it into a small little bunch. Insert it to the hole on the spindle. Push about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of material in and rotate clockwise. Make sure that the hexagon motor coupler is facing away from you and rotate clockwise. Insert the hexagon female into the male end, and the other side of the spindle will rest onto the spindle bracket. And then take the spindle clamp and lightly screw the screws in place. The screws don't need to be very tight. You can just loosely tighten with your hand because the bracket below is holding most of the weight. This completes the main assembly of the filter. Now we have some additional parts that we will show you to finish the assembly. Each grow plate should have a screw attached to it from the back. You can take one of the large grow plates and insert into the algae scrubber. Make sure you're aligning it with the float switch bracket. You may need some adjustment. The second grow plate should be placed inside, and then the third smaller grow plate. Now you can adjust the screw's tension so that it rests nice and tight to your preference, but it should be easily removed for cleaning. Take the front light shield, place the 2 screws in and place on top, and then place the lid on top of the filter. Now you have a complete assembled filter and you are ready to turn it on. Please watch the other instructional videos, including getting the filter up and running.